Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of your time to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. Today I'm going to be doing a video on my top 5 Dark Ascension cards. I started this series a little bit on my channel where I basically take a look at the whole of a set and I basically go through and figure out either my top 5 or my top 10 favorite cards. Top 10, you can really tell it's like one of my all-time favorites because I have like 10 cards, and obviously 5 means like I definitely like the set, and there's of course notable cards that I want to talk about, but it might not be like my all-time favorite. Dark Ascension I feel like gets not as much attention, I feel like, as some other sets. I feel like just like as a whole, I don't feel like a lot of people like maybe have as many memorable cards from there. And to be honest, I don't even necessarily know if I feel like I'm talking about all of the cards that maybe other people normally would when they associate with talking about Dark Ascension, but I think it is important to talk about number 5, which is definitely a staple from Dark Ascension, which is Lingering Souls. And to be honest, I feel like I really needed to talk about Lingering Souls in this video because even though it's a card that I'm not avidly I'm not running this in any of my decks, but that might change. I might actually run this card in Tesa. I think I'm going to be changing up Tesa and the way she works, and I think I'm going to be running a couple more cards like this that like put tokens on the battlefield. Not 100% sure yet on that, so don't quote me, but anyways, I just feel like Lingering Souls is such a staple card for me, and like, to be honest, Lingering Souls was one of like those staples, like when I built like black-white tokens, this was one of like those quintessential cards like in black-white tokens, and I feel like Modern now, I feel like doesn't really use this card, at least that I know of, but back in the day, Modern, like Lingering Souls was like the card that like people were just like couldn't get enough of, like Lingering Souls, and just like such an incredible card, you know what I mean? Just so good. Again, it's to me, this feels like one of the quintessential Dark Ascension cards that I feel like I really had to talk about. So definitely a really good like staple card, and I really had to talk about it. At the number 5 slot, we are counting down, so number 1 would be my favorite. Okay, the next card is, and again, I feel like I really had to mention this card, is Gravecrawler. And kind of a funny story about Gravecrawler. So before I started making YouTube videos back in like 2015, wow, that's wild. Before I started to do that, I had, and like even probably long before this, when you're like starting out playing Magic and you don't really know like what formats are and like what cards are legal and stuff, I had a 60 count zombie deck, and it was actually really, really good. And funny story, flash forward now years later, I think in 2018 or maybe in 2019, I built Michaeus zombies, and Gravecrawler was actually one of those cards that I just didn't like originally put in the deck because I actually forgot about it, and I remember like looking one time at my local game store, Mage's Sanctum, and I like looked in the case and I was like, Gravecrawler. I was like, I need to buy that card. Like, it's such a good zombie card. Like, again, one of the, I feel like the zombie cards. Like, when people think zombie cards, I feel like they're like Gravecrawler. At least that's what I think of. Anyways, this card is just like flavorful. I just think like this card overall just like, again, is a quintessential zombie card because of the notion of you can bring this card back to from your graveyard if you control another zombie. Like, what screams more zombie than this card? I don't know. I love it. It's 1 mana, like, you can't go wrong, and it's a 2/1. Like, it can't block, but like, who cares? Okay. Another zombie card. Coming in at my number 3 slot is Zombie Apacolypse. I don't feel like this card is, again, I don't feel like this is a weller known. I don't feel like this card is as well known as I feel like other cards from Dark Ascension. Like, when people think Dark Ascension, I don't feel like they notice this card as much. But, like, this card is such a house. I run it in zombies, of course. It's called Zombie Apacolypse. Like, come on. Like, how could you not? And it's actually really, really, really good in Commander. So, first off, it returns all zombies from your graveyard to the battlefield. For 6 mana, you literally could have stopped there. Like, this is dumb. And it destroys all humans. And to be honest, that ability doesn't seem as relevant in Commander as you might initially think. But let me tell you something. I have cast this card before in order to just progress my board, and with casting this card, I totally hurt many of my opponents, and I really am a huge fan of that. I'm a fan of things that progress me and help me and my board, of course, but then I get the chance to stop other people and what they're doing. Yes, hello, I'm a huge fan of that. Really love this card. By the way, Game Day promo is stunning. I have her, and she is phenomenal. Coming in at the number 2 slot, we have, and I mentioned it, I'm talking about all these zombie cards, but seriously, this was a great zombie set, and that was Mikeaus, the Unhallowed. Oh man. Okay, so again, I had that zombie deck, and then Mikeaus is my commander. I call him Mikey because Mikeaus, Mikey, I don't know. And just like, he's so incredibly good. I mean, like, I have a deck tech on him on my channel. If you're interested in seeing more of that, if I remember, I'll link it in the down bar below. But, like, he is truthfully, like, so incredibly good as a commander. And, like, I'll tell you why. First off, 6 mana for a 5/5. That's pretty good because he has a million abilities. He's got Intimidate. This card can kill people on his own. Whenever a human deals damage, you destroy it. Okay, again, this is very similar to the zombie apocalypse thing that I was talking about earlier. Might not be relevant, but there's a really good chance when you're playing a game of Commander and you run Mikeaus as your commander, there is a good chance that someone is going to hit you with a human. Like, come on. It's even better, y'all, if it's someone's commander is a human, and then they attack you, and then you're like, Mikeaus, because let me tell you something, no one remembers this ability. Like, someone will attack, and then you're like, okay, I'll take 4 commander damage, you know, blah, 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 whatever. It's dead. And they're like, and it's like, yeah, Mikeaus says it dies. But his last ability is why we're really all here. Other non-human creatures you control get +1/+1 and have an Undying. Okay. First off, let's just talk about the +1/+1. This is just such a great buff. Like, giving your zombies, or, I mean, I feel like he just is a zombie. Like, I guess you could build Mikeaus and do other things, but, like, you're gonna run this and not run humans, because that just doesn't make any sense. So you run this with zombies or whatever other black creatures, and then they get +1/+1, which is amazing, and they have Undying. Like, again, just, like, the perfect, like, recipe for a zombie card. I'm here for it. This is really, 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 really good. Like, the Undying, just bringing them back, very flavorful, huge win. Overall, an incredible card. A very, like, does a lot of things card. I'm a huge fan of the, like, does all the things. I love that. Okay, before we talk about the first card, I really like to talk about the honorable mention. The honorable mention slot can go for a couple of different things. The one thing that it can go for is artwork. Another thing I could say honorable mention for is, like, a card that I really wanted to make this list, but, like, just didn't. It just, like, was that number 6 that I couldn't quite squeeze on here. For this case, the honorable mention is art. Usually it's art because, let's be real here, I just love art. And, like, it's such an important part of the game. My favorite art for this set, and let me tell you something. When I go through these lists, it is really easy for me to pick out these cards. It's hard for me to pick out the honorable mention, let me tell you. Like, really. And that is Chosen of Markov. I love this art. It's so freaking pretty, okay? First off, Steve Argyle. Love Steve Argyle. Like, he does some of the best, like, and I feel like I always say that, like, they're one of my favorite artists, but, like, he's one of my favorite artists. Okay, like, the background colors of this, like, the reds and the purples, here for it. Here for it. Her ribbon, I don't know why, but, like, ribbons, like, get to me. Like, anyone else just, like, love the aesthetic of a ribbon? Like, does that make, just, like, the aesthetic of lace. Like, I love lace, and, like, the aesthetic of the ribbon around, like, her neck, and just, like, I'm here for this card, okay? The colors, just everything. Like, I love this card. I wish I had an excuse to, like, run this card, because it's just pretty. Okay, that was it for the honorable mention. I feel like I just get really into the honorable mentions, but they're such a fun category for me to really talk about. Okay, and the last card, the number 1 card, my favorite card in Dark Ascension, and, again, a very quintessential Dark Ascension card, and that is Thalia. Like, it's interesting because I feel like when I think about Dark Ascension, I think a lot about these, like, black cards and these, like, zombies. But Thalia is just such a good staple from this set that, like, you see this card just being printed over and over again. You know what I mean? Like, she's amazing. She's, like, this really good, classic, Death and Taxes card, which I like to have a little bit of D&T in my EDH decks. Like, I'm known to have, like, D&T. Like, that's what I like. I just like saying D&T, Death and Taxes. Like, I just love that. I think that's so cute. Okay, She's awesome. You know, not really a whole lot to say. She's a 2-mana 2/1 with first strike, and then she's got non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. It does impact you, so, you know, might not be, you know, the staple that you run in, like, all your commander decks, but, like, runner and ladies just really enjoy her. Like, she's just cool. She's just, like, a really cool lady. We love the art. Like, just, I feel like such a good Death and Taxes card. Like, such a staple Death and Taxes card. Like, I feel like when people think Death and Taxes, like, they think a Thalia, and, like, usually it's this one. Okay, guys, that is everything for talking about Dark Ascension. I really enjoy filming these videos. To me, it's really fun to spend time looking at a set as a whole, like taking a step back and looking at big picture, because again, there are sets, like, you might have thought about another card from Dark Ascension that you were like, oh, she'll definitely talk about that, and, like, I might not have, so it's like, it's cool to take a step back and to really say, what cards do I really use when I think about this set? What are those cards that I'm like, yes, Dark Ascension, those are cards that I personally really enjoy. So I would really love to know cards that you really enjoy from Dark Ascension. You know, let me know about other art, because again, I only talk about one from my honorable mention, but I'm kind of thinking about increasing it because I love talking about art, but I feel like the honorable mention's not really why we're here. It's really to talk about, you know, the bulk of the cards. So I'd really love to know what cards you enjoy about Dark Ascension. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you guys in my next one.